Michael Jordan found his ex-wife's old diary while cleaning out their former home in 2021. What he read on page 127, an entry from 1998 that Juanita never meant for him to see, made the strongest man in sports break down in tears. The truth about what she really thought during their marriage would haunt him forever. March 2021, Michael Jordan was finally cleaning out the Highland Park mansion he had shared with Juanita for nearly 2 decades. The house had been sitting mostly empty since their 2006 divorce, filled with memories he wasn't ready to face until now. In the master bedroom closet, behind boxes of old basketball memorabilia and championship rings, he found a small wooden jewelry box he didn't recognize. Inside, beneath some vintage earrings and a broken watch, was a leather-bound diary with JJ embossed in gold on the cover. This isn't just a story about a man finding his ex-wife's diary. It's about what happens when you discover that the person you thought you knew best in the world was a complete stranger. It's about the private pain that can hide behind public perfection and how success can blind us to the suffering of the people we claim to love most. Michael stared at the diary for a long time before opening it. He knew he shouldn't read it. These were Juanita's private thoughts, never meant for his eyes. But after 15 years of wondering what had really gone wrong in their marriage, the temptation was too strong. The first entry was dated January 1st, New Year's Day. New Year's Day. Michael won the championship last year and is already talking about the next one. Sometimes I feel like I'm married to basketball and Michael is just basketball's representative in human form. But I love him. I love us. This year will be different. Michael smiled sadly. He remembered that New Year's Day. He had been so focused on coming back from baseball, so determined to prove he could still dominate, that he'd barely noticed Juanita's hope that things would change. He flipped through the pages, reading snippets of Juanita's life, thoughts about their children, her dreams, her frustrations, her hopes. With each entry, he realized how little he had actually known about the woman he'd been married to for 17 years. Then he reached page 127. The entry was dated March 15th, 1998. Michael remembered that date perfectly. It was the night the Bulls clinched their 6th championship. It was the pinnacle of his career, the moment that cemented his legacy as the greatest basketball player who ever lived. What he read next would destroy him. Michael won his 6th championship March 15th, 1988 tonight. I should be happy. I should be proud. I should be celebrating with my husband, who just achieved something no one else in basketball history has ever done. Instead, I'm sitting alone in our bedroom at 2 a.m., writing in this diary because I have no one else to tell the truth to. Michael came home from the celebration at 1:30. He was drunk on champagne and victory, carrying the trophy, talking about how this proves he's the greatest of all time. He was so happy, so electric with triumph, that I didn't want to ruin it by telling him what I was really feeling. But the truth is, I felt like a widow tonight. I felt like my husband died years ago and was replaced by this person who happens to share his name and his face. When Michael walked in tonight, he didn't kiss me hello. He didn't ask how my day was. He didn't notice that I'd been crying. He just started talking about the game, about the shots he made, about how he proved all the doubters wrong. For 45 minutes, he talked about basketball. Not once did he ask about me, about Marcus, about Jasmine, about our life. It was all basketball, all the time, like it always is. I realized tonight that I don't think Michael sees me as a person anymore. I think he sees me as Michael Jordan's wife. I'm not Juanita to him. I'm just another part of his image, another trophy on his shelf, another element of his perfect life that he can point to when people ask about his success. The saddest part is, I don't think he's doing it on purpose. I don't think he's trying to make me feel invisible. I think he's so consumed by being Michael Jordan that he's forgotten how to be Michael, the man I fell in love with, the man who used to notice when I was sad, who used to care about my dreams too. I'm proud of what he accomplished tonight, but I'm also mourning the death of my marriage, because somewhere between the first championship and the 6th, I lost my husband to his legend. I wonder if he would even notice if I wasn't here anymore, or if he'd just see it as another obstacle to overcome, another problem to solve so he could get back to basketball. I can't do this much longer. I'm disappearing piece by piece, day by day. And the worst part is, the man I love most in the world doesn't even notice I'm gone. Tomorrow I'll put on my smile and be Michael Jordan's wife again. But tonight, I'm just Juanita, and I'm so tired of being alone in my marriage." Michael read the entry 3 times before the words fully sank in. Then he sat on the floor of his empty closet and cried harder than he had cried since his father died. March 15th, 1998. He remembered that night so clearly, but from a completely different perspective. In his memory, it was the greatest night of his life. He had just won his 6th championship, cementing his place in history. He had come home to share his triumph with his family. But according to Juanita's diary, he had come home and made his wife feel like she didn't exist. Michael tried to remember that night from Juanita's perspective. Had she been crying when he came home? He couldn't remember. Had she tried to tell him something important? He couldn't remember. Had he spent 45 minutes talking only about basketball? Probably. The worst part was reading that Juanita didn't think he was doing it on purpose. She understood that he wasn't trying to hurt her. She knew he was just so consumed with being Michael Jordan that he had forgotten how to be Michael. That almost made it worse. If he had been deliberately cruel, at least she could have hated him. Instead, she had just slowly disappeared while loving a man who didn't notice she was fading away. Michael continued reading, and with each entry, a pattern emerged that he had been blind to for 17 years. April 3rd, 1998. He said the team needed him for extra practice. I sat alone in the auditorium while my daughter looked for her father in the crowd. When she asked me later why Daddy wasn't there, I made an excuse. I'm getting really good at making excuses for him. June 12, 1998. Michael's birthday. I planned a small family dinner, just us and the kids. He came home 2 hours late because he was signing autographs after practice. The cake melted. The kids fell asleep. I ate dinner alone and pretended it was fine when he finally showed up. August 20, 1998. We went to dinner tonight for our anniversary. Michael spent the entire meal signing napkins for other customers. I sat across from him and realized that I can't remember the last time we had a conversation that wasn't interrupted by someone who wanted a piece of him. October 6, 1998. But right in the middle of our conversation, his agent called about a commercial, and Michael took the call. 30 minutes later, when he hung up, he didn't even remember what we were talking about. Entry after entry, year after year, Juanita had documented the slow erosion of their marriage. Not because Michael was cheating or lying or being deliberately hurtful, but because he had become so consumed with his public persona that he had forgotten his private relationships. The most devastating entries were about their children. September 15th, 1999. Marcus made the basketball team today. He was so excited to tell his father, but when Michael came home, he was upset about something that happened at practice, and he barely listened. Marcus went to his room and didn't come out for the rest of the night. I found him crying later. He said he doesn't think Daddy cares about his basketball because it's not NBA basketball. November 3, 2000. Jasmine asked me today why Daddy loves basketball more than he loves her. I didn't know what to say. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that her father does love her? He's just forgotten how to show it. How do you tell your daughter that she's competing with a sport for her father's attention and losing? January 8, 2001. But he never missed a Bulls practice, never missed a team meeting, never missed anything related to his career. Our son is starting to think he's not important to his father. And honestly, I'm starting to think he's right. Michael realized that while he was becoming a legend to the world, he was becoming a stranger to his own family. His children had grown up feeling like they had to compete with basketball for their father's love, and they were losing. The entries from 2002 showed Juanita reaching her breaking point. March 12, 2002. I told Michael today that I need more from our marriage. I need him to be present, to be engaged, to notice when I'm struggling. His response was to buy me a $50,000 necklace. He thought that would fix it. He actually thought that money could solve the problem of him not seeing me as a person. July 4, 2002, Independence Day. Ironic, because I'm realizing that I need to become independent from this marriage. I can't keep disappearing. I can't keep making excuses. I can't keep pretending that being married to Michael Jordan is the same thing as being married to Michael. December 31st. Last day of the year. I made a resolution tonight. I'm going to start living my life for me, not for Michael's image. I'm going to start speaking up when I feel ignored. I'm going to start demanding that my husband treat me like a wife, not like a supporting character in his biography. February 14, 2003. Valentine's Day. Michael forgot. Again. Not just forgot to get me something, forgot that it was Valentine's Day at all. When I mentioned it, he said he'd make it up to me next week. Next week. Like love is something you can reschedule. The last entry in the diary was dated December 29th, 2006, just days before Juanita filed for divorce. December 29th, 2006. This will be my last entry in this diary. Tomorrow, I'm going to tell Michael that I want a divorce. People will say I'm crazy for leaving Michael Jordan. They'll say I'm throwing away the perfect life. But they don't understand that there's no such thing as a perfect life when you're invisible in your own marriage. I've spent the last 4 years trying to save us. I've tried talking to him, crying to him, pleading with him to see me as more than just Michael Jordan's wife. But nothing worked. He's not a bad man. He's just a man who forgot that fame is what other people give you, but love is what you give other people. I hope someday he reads this diary, not to hurt him, but to help him understand that you can have all the success in the world and still fail at the things that actually matter. I hope he learns that being the greatest basketball player doesn't mean anything if you're not a good husband and father. I hope he realizes that I didn't leave him because I stopped loving him. I left him because he stopped seeing me. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just sad. Sad for what we could have been if he had chosen us even half as much as he chose basketball. Goodbye, Michael. I hope you find happiness, and I hope you learn to give someone else the attention you gave to your career. Maybe then you'll understand what you lost when you lost me. Michael sat in that empty closet for 3 hours, reading and rereading Juanita's words. Each entry was like a knife to his heart, because he realized that every single thing she had written was true. He had been so focused on becoming a legend that he had forgotten to be a husband. He had been so obsessed with winning games that he had lost his family. He had been so concerned with his public image that he had ignored his private relationships. The next day, Michael called Juanita for the first time in 5 years. "Juanita, it's Michael. I need to see you. There's something I need to say." They met at a quiet coffee shop in downtown Chicago, far from the cameras and the crowds. "I found your diary," Michael said without preamble. Juanita's face went pale. "Michael, you had no right. You're absolutely right. I had no right. Just like I had no right to treat you the way I did during our marriage. What do you want, Michael? I want to apologize for everything, for making you feel invisible, for choosing basketball over you, for making our children compete with my career for my attention, for being the worst husband in the world while everyone thought I was the perfect man." Juanita was quiet for a long time. "It's been 15 years, Michael. Why now?" "Because I just realized that I never actually knew you. I was married to you for 17 years, and I never knew you were keeping a diary. I never knew you were crying yourself to sleep. I never knew you felt invisible. I was so busy being Michael Jordan that I forgot to be your husband. And what do you want me to do with that information?" "Nothing. I don't want anything from you. I just want you to know that you were right about everything, and I want you to know that losing you was the biggest failure of my life." "Michael," Juanita said softly, "I wrote those diary entries when I was angry and hurt and lonely, but I never wanted you to read them to hurt you. They didn't hurt me, Juanita. They opened my eyes. They showed me who I really was during our marriage." "And who was that?" "A selfish man who thought that success excused everything else. A man who took the best woman in the world for granted. A man who forgot that being great at basketball means nothing if you're terrible at love." Juanita reached across the table and took Michael's hand. "You weren't terrible at love, Michael. You just loved basketball more than you loved anything else. And that's not necessarily wrong. It's just not compatible with marriage. Do you forgive me? I forgave you years ago, Michael. Not for your sake, but for mine. Carrying anger was making me bitter, and I didn't want to be bitter. Do you think our kids will ever forgive me? They already have. They understand that you did the best you could with who you were at the time, and they're proud of what you accomplished, even if they wish you had been more present. I wish I could do it over. You can't do our marriage over, Michael, but you can do better going forward. You can learn from who you were and become who you want to be. Today, Michael Jordan keeps one of Juanita's diary entries framed in his office, not to torture himself, but to remind himself of the man he never wants to be again. The entry reads, "I don't think he sees me as a person anymore. I think he sees me as Michael Jordan's wife." That entry changed my life, Michael says. It taught me that success is meaningless if the people you love feel invisible. It taught me that being great at your career doesn't excuse being absent from your relationships. Michael's relationship with his children improved dramatically after he read the diary. He started showing up to their events, asking about their lives, treating them like people rather than extensions of his legacy. He never remarried, but he learned to have healthier relationships. He learned to see people as individuals rather than as supporting characters in his story. Juanita's diary taught me the most important lesson of my life, Michael reflects. It taught me that there's a difference between being successful and being significant. Success is what you achieve. Significance is what you mean to other people. I was successful at basketball, but I wasn't significant to my family, and when you're not significant to the people who matter most, all your success is just noise. The discovery of Juanita's diary didn't save Michael Jordan's marriage. It was 15 years too late for that. But it saved his relationships with his children, his understanding of himself, and his ability to love other people properly. Reading those entries was like looking in a mirror for the first time in my life, Michael says. I saw myself the way Juanita saw me, the way my children saw me, the way I really was instead of the way I thought I was. It was devastating, but it was also liberating, because once you see the truth about yourself, you can choose to change. Juanita Jordan never intended for Michael to find her diary, but in losing it, she gave him the greatest gift possible, the truth about who he had been, and the opportunity to become someone better. Some discoveries destroy us, others save us. Sometimes the most painful truths are the ones we need most. The diary that broke Michael Jordan's heart also opened it. And sometimes that's exactly what needs to happen for real healing to begin. The strongest man in sports learned that the most important victories don't happen on courts. They happen in the quiet moments when we choose to really see the people we love. That's a lesson worth more than 6 championships. That's a truth worth more than any trophy. That's the kind of wisdom that can only come from reading the secret thoughts of someone who loved you enough to tell the truth, even when you weren't ready to hear it. Some diaries are meant to stay secret, others are meant to change lives. Juanita Jordan's diary did both.